Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Peralvis, and this is video 5 in my limited documentary series looking at racism at the Upper Grand District School Board and attempting to problem solve that issue, or even have a conversation about that issue with the upper management and the trustees at this board, and specifically looking at critical race theory. And I want to make very clear, I believe that everyone should have an equal opportunity regardless of their skin color, and I believe that using critical race theory to guide your policies is not a good idea fundamentally, because I think that critical race theory is a flawed theory. It blames white people specifically, and I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think you can say to a child, any system built by your race is inherently racist because it was built by your race. So that's the basic premise here that I'm trying to get across to the trustees, to the superintendent, to the director of education. That's the fundamental crux of it. I can't imagine how a board of education could stand by a statement and a theory that at core says that. Okay, and so I got a response from the superintendent of inclusivity and equity, and she says, well, my tweet said, check out my series about the awful policies created by the leadership in this racist board, Upper Grand District School Board. And she says, I have, thank you. Best to tell staff to ignore him. Wow, isn't that nice? I'd just like to understand, maybe have somebody explain to me how this is not racist, or explain how it's specifically not in contravention of the Education Act 169(1)(a)(1). I would love the explanation. What's the rationalization that the board is using? I would love to understand, but apparently, according to the superintendent, it's best to ignore me. She deleted this tweet about 10 seconds after this, but I caught this tweet with my handy camera, so my handy screen capturing. The other video, on the second video, I talked about how I requested to join the steering committee, the equity steering committee that comes up with the language and approves the language that goes forward into the policies. And the policies matter because they govern the policies at the schools, okay? And this actually is in the scope of the FSLAC committee, but not according to the FSLAC chair. Anyway, regardless, I don't think that I would be welcome to participate. And here's why. In the middle of summer, the Upper Grand District School Board and Cheryl Van Utenham released this. Dear community partner, the Upper Grand District School Board is seeking applications from community members and or individuals for the Police Presence in Schools Task Force Review. The Police Presence in Schools is a long running, and I think probably at least 20 year program. So probably started in the early 2000s, maybe even earlier than that, where police officers are in high schools to have a connection to the high school students, to demystify the police. I think they're part of the guidance office or part of the main office, and they're part of the school, essentially. And that's been a popular program, and they're looking at mothballing it because of the Black Lives Matter and the anti-police stuff that's been coming up recently. So that's where we're at. That's what this was about. But look at the criteria. Here are the criteria. Criteria for the Police Presence in Schools Task Force Review includes: 1, interest in being a part of the committee that will review and assess the police presence in schools; 2, a resident with the Upper Grand District School Board who supports the public school system. I believe in this situation that means like you pay taxes to that system. 3, a member of the community organization and or agency. If you're not a member of a community organization and or agency, please include a letter of support indicating whose voice you're representing. Can you not represent a parent's voice? You're not allowed. You have to represent a group's voice. Some group has to be represented by you. Number 4, complete the application and a summary stating your reason for applying to be to the task force. 5, available to participate in meetings and adhere to the terms of engagement. Upper Grand District School Board is mindful of traditionally underrepresented voices, especially BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Quick aside, I think the use of this acronym is like racist in itself. I think that soon people will say, well, saying BIPOC is kind of racist. We shouldn't say that. I think it is racist, though. I think that, like, you can't say Black, Indigenous, and people of color. People of color? I think lumping everybody who's not lighter skinned, I suppose, into people of color is wrong-headed. And I mean, like, how do you draw the line? Like, which Europeans are you talking about, right? Like, Greek? Italian? No. Do they have to be UK British? Welsh? Saxon? Like, honestly, it's so wrong-headed. It's unbelievable. Anyway, and we'll make a specific effort to reach out to this community for task force representation. Applicants are to submit an application to Cheryl Van Newtengheim by Monday, August 10th. Current task force members will review each application based on the criteria above. Representation from each geographic area of the Upper Grand District School Board will be sought. 7 or 8 community members will be invited to participate with staff and trustees on the police presence in schools task force review. And here it is, your name and all of your information here, community organization if applicable. Provide a brief summary of your interest in the task force and applying to this task force, and it's optional, perspective and or voice traditionally underrepresented that you identify with. That sentence isn't very good. But also very concerning because they're pre-screening anybody who's bringing potentially ideas they don't want. Oh, sorry, we've got enough. We're just not taking you. Right? So not confident that I'm going to hear about joining the Equity Steering Committee. Love to, but we'll see. Anyway, moving on. Here's the Public Concerns Manual. This outlines how to address an issue. If you've got an issue, right, you start with the teacher and then you go to the principal. Then you go to the superintendent, and then you go to the director of education. So we've all seen the discussion with the superintendent. We've all seen the discussion with the director of education. The director of education says that all of my issues have been solved. So who do I take this to next? I take this to the Board of Trustees, right? So register as a delegation, present to the trustees. If a parent or guardian and the director of education are not able to resolve the issue, the parent or guardian may register as a delegation and make a presentation to trustees by contacting the chair of the board. In accordance with the Education Act, the presentation may be closed to the public if the matter involves the disclosure of intimate, personal, or financial information about a pupil, parent, or guardian. Nope, but I'm not confident that that's going to work either, and I'll show you why in just a minute. I want to show you the trustees have a code of conduct. We're going to read through that now, and I'm going to be as brief as I can be. Okay, so basically the general purpose of the code of conduct is to identify attitudes, conduct, and actions required to carry out the role of the public board trustee in an ethical manner. Okay, and here it is, behaviors and conduct. During board activities, so if you're representing the board, you will be punctual and in regular attendance. Be properly prepared and committed to dealing with topics in question. Demonstrate rigor and honesty in debate. Be prepared to listen and to respect the ideas expressed. Be involved, frank, and transparent in the expression of opinion. Operate in a collegial manner with fellow trustees. Seek to make equitable decisions. Place in highest priority one's obligation to the democratic process rather than to one's own interests. Respect the board's established due process. Be supportive of policies adopted by the majority. Refrain from the use of offensive language. Refrain from making disparaging remarks about another trustee or group of trustees. Refrain from speculating on the motives of another trustee or group of trustees. Refrain from engaging in conduct that would discredit or compromise the integrity of the board. Maintain the focus on issues being discussed without the inclusion of personal or anecdotal comments. Adhere to Policy 312, website and social media management when managing trustees' websites and social media accounts, and Policy 318, responsible use of digital technologies when using board devices. With the public, community, and other levels of government, trustees will be consistent and supportive of decisions adopted by a majority of the board in interests of the community and its concerns. Adhere to the highest ethical standards. And the rest is administrative staff and other staff, etc. I'm not going to read the rest there, but the link will be in the description if you want to read it. Moving to the next guide, this is the responsible use of technologies. So the general responsible use of all users. Adhere to standards of courtesy and behavior consistent with the policy and procedures in conjunction with the school's code of conduct and or policy and procedures. So they have to abide by the code of conduct that is rolled out by the board, and here's that. And I know that maybe this seems a little bit dry, but this is the governing document of the board. This is how they're supposed to behave. So it's interesting to note. Okay, so here's the standards of behavior. Number 4 is respect and civility. We'll do number 3. Intention of the code of conduct. The board's code of conduct and school code of conduct are based on the provincial code of conduct. All of these codes of conduct are intended to set out clearly what is acceptable and what is unacceptable behavior for all members of the school community within each learning environment on school and on board property, school buses, at school, school-related events, activities, on or off-site, virtual learning environments, and in other circumstances that could have a negative impact on the school climate. Ensure that all members of the school community are treated with respect and dignity. Promote responsible citizenship by encouraging appropriate participation in the civic life of the school community. Maintain an environment where conflict and difference can be addressed in a manner characterized by respect and civility. Encourage the use of nonviolent means to resolve conflict. Promote the safety of people in the schools. Discourage the use of alcohol, illegal drugs, except by medical cannabis users, prevent bullying in schools, and the standards of behavior on respect, civility, and responsible citizenship. All members of the school community will respect and comply with all applicable federal, provincial, and municipal laws. Demonstrate honesty and integrity. Respect differences in people, their ideas, and their opinions. Treat one another with dignity and respect at all times, and especially where there is a disagreement. Respect and treat others fairly regardless of age, sex, gender, identity, and gender expression, sexual orientation, race, color, place of origin, culture, citizenship, ancestry, origin, religion, creed, familial status, marital status, socioeconomic status, employment, housing, or disability. Respect the rights of others, show proper care and regard for school property and the property of others, take appropriate measures to help those in need, etc., etc. And I'm going to stop there and go to one more before we get to the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about. Responsible use of digital technologies, and hold on. I did that one already. Never mind. We looked at that one. Okay, so here we are. So during the situation, and the situation was dealing with critical race theory and the statements made by board staff during the board presentation to the trustees. During this situation, I attempted to use all available avenues of opportunity to reach out to get my problem solved. The June 16th meeting was a presentation to the Board of Trustees. I sent the below email to the trustees to see if I could get any help articulating my concerns to the Upper Grand District School Board. Most ignored my email and let the chair of the Board of Trustees respond to me, which is protocol. A few trustees did respond, mostly to direct me to wait for a response from the chair. One trustee claimed outright falsehoods about me to her colleagues. Here is the email I sent. Text of all the emails are underneath the images if the email contains links, so you can click on the links. But I do this so you can see the images that were embedded in the email. I'm going to get rid of me so I can read it easily, and here we go. Good afternoon, trustees of the Upper Grand District School Board. I'm writing to you because, as I understand it, in your position, you are locally elected representatives of the public, and they're the community's advocate for public education. They're required to carry out their responsibilities in a manner that assists the board in fulfilling its duties under the Education Act. Now, before I carry on, actually, I want to explain something. There is a procedure that the trustees have to follow with regards to, and it's laid out at the bottom of this document here, about where everything goes and who's supposed to deal with it. So when you send an email to all trustees, the chair of the board has to deal with it. That's protocol. So which I didn't know at this point in time. Okay, so but anyway, carry on. I'm gonna carry on reading. Over the past week, I have been having a discussion with the Upper Grand District School Board about their new equity and inclusion policy. I have a long list of questions after watching the meeting from June 16th and took advantage of an offered meeting to further clarify the position the board is taking as articulated in that meeting. I CC'd you all on the original list of questions, but will include them again at the bottom of this email for your convenience. The board responded to me and set a meeting for July 3rd from 1:30 to 2:30. In the process of setting that meeting, it was changed from a one-on-one meeting to a meeting of 3 people from the board and myself. My request for a one-on-one meeting was casually dismissed, and my request for the questions to be answered prior to the meeting was denied multiple times. The reason given was that the superintendent needed her team there to answer the questions. She also stated that her team would be on vacation and would need to come in during vacation time in order to attend, which seemed like an odd choice considering my request for written answers and a one-on-one meeting to discuss the answers further. It's a very complex topic. I digress. I'm requesting one or as many of you who would like to attend to sit in on this meeting to hear the clarification and to help me articulate the concerns that I see in this policy to the correct people at the board. I will be specific about what language is concerning, why it's concerning, and what I believe the policies to be contravening in the Education Act. And I included here a picture of 169 1A1 saying here's where I believe it is contravening. And I say, to put it bluntly, Critical race, to put it bluntly, critical race theory, the theory that the board is using to ground all of its policies, says, according to Britannica, the view that the law and legal institutions are inherently racist, and that race itself, instead of being biologically grounded in nature and natural, is a socially constructed concept that is used by white people to further their economic and political interest at the expense of people of color. Here we go. The curriculum lead, Kalinda, states clearly in this June 16th meeting, because the systems were all developed by white folks who are white, that they are inherently racist. How is the board promoting a positive school climate by having this as the cornerstone to their equity and inclusion policy? Do you have a good answer? In your opinion, am I misunderstanding something vital here? Is it also your opinion that any system created by folks who are white is inherently racist? I'm asking for your help in good faith. I believe this to be a very damaging change. Looking forward to discussing this with each of you. Thank you for your time. And that's the same email repeated here. I received an email from the chair of the Board of Trustees. This is that email. She says, "Dear Mr. Peralvis, me. Thank you for your email. We're confident Superintendent Van Utengam will address your questions and concerns on July 3rd. As the Board of Trustees of the Upper Grand District School Board, we support the equity plan and the anti-racism work that is being done in the board." And I say, in response to my email, the chair of the FSLAC committee sent this email to her colleagues. She says, "Hi, this is Robin Ross, the Wellington North Upper Grand District School Board trustee." She says, "Hi, I know you all got an email from Mark Peralvis. I've had many such meetings and emails from him as a member of FSLAC. He is fun to have long philosophical discussions with, but in my experience, it is one-sided. He has no intention of using the discussion to examine his opinion that he comes to the meeting with. When I have time, I enjoy the challenge of understanding his arguments and studying my own ideas to see how they stand up to the scrutiny. I just wanted you to know that this is not an invitation to take up lightly or without a lot of preparation. I usually spend an hour or two before I reply to his emails, making sure that my points are ordered based on data and that I know enough other facts to defend my points. I find it a lot of fun, but a lot of work. Usually he is far outside the mandate of FSLAC, but he has clearly stated to me that he will continue to use it as an opening to send his opinions to others on any topic he wishes, even after other members have asked him to stop including them. As soon as he finds out that addressing all of us gets a response from the chair, I'm sure he will contact everyone individually with a more complex argument than this one. His main premise is that the philosophy of our board equity plan is wrong. He hasn't yet shared what his cultural philosophy is. I agree with our use of the philosophy that the white victors wrote the rules and wrote history, and it is inherently biased because of that. I will continue to defend it privately to him. Just a friendly heads up as to what you will be getting when you answer him, Robin." And this is repeated here. And this is me. I find it funny. I'll bring myself back here. Hold on a second. I find it funny and sad that she didn't bother to look up the correct spelling of my name. Mispronunciation of a name was used as an example of racism by Cheryl in our conversation during the meeting we had on July 3rd. How ironic. I wonder what misspelling it means. Also, in her last line, it says, "I agree with our use of the philosophy that the white victors wrote the rules and wrote history, and it's inherently biased because of that. I will continue to defend it privately to him." Do you know what that means? I've asked the trustees, including the Wellington North trustee who wrote it, but I have no idea. They haven't answered, and I don't expect one forthcoming. I don't think it's appropriate, however. What biased history is she speaking of specifically? Is this language common among board trustees? I don't know. I don't show you this for any reason other than to illustrate to you that I was reaching out to all other board trustees for help, including Robin Ross, in addressing a problem that I thought would be obvious to anyone. Instead, what happened is that a trustee used the board email to lie to other trustees about what a parent had said. Here's my response to this email. And I'm going to go back in time and show you the emails that happened previous. You can see these emails are on the 25th, if you look at the date just above my head here. But these emails between Robin Ross and I that are coming up are on the 23rd, as soon as I get myself out of the way. Hold on. 23rd. So she directly lies about me. Never mind the fact that we've never had a conversation regarding anywhere close to what she implies here. But here we go. Here's my response to this email. Hello, Robin. I'm glad you find me so fun. I didn't know I had made that much of an impression on you. Can you remind me of any discussion we've had in the past? With regards to this FSLAC email chain, you describe it very differently than I remember it. You told me to stop CCing everyone as it was outside of the FSLAC mandate, and I disagreed. I have no intention of trying to further any agenda, nor to use the list for anything other than official business or discussing board-related items, and your suggestion is insulting and surprising. I will absolutely be following up with the chair. Would you all like me to include the email chain referenced? With regard to my intention to change my opinion, how dare you state my intention? I will be following up with the ombudsman, I have done that, about your conduct here. With regards to reaching out to you, I was and am being genuine. I'm asking questions that are on topic and have real impact to the day at the board. The language, real impact to the day at the board. In the day-to-day at the board, excuse me. The language used matters. I find it shocking that I need to defend myself against a trustee's slanderous and uninformed comments. I try to be thoughtful and respectful in my discord with everyone. I respect that we may disagree. Your behavior here is reprehensible. How shocking. Good day. And I'll bring myself back again. If you're a parent, and I'm a parent, and you're trying to solve a problem that even if we disagree, if somebody can give me a rational explanation for this and not that they're just completely disregarding the Education Act, then I may accept it, or I may take that explanation and say this explanation's garbage and push back even harder. But at least I'd have an explanation. This is insidious. They just ignore. It's very interesting. Anyway, carry on. I did follow up with the Ombudsman and the Chair of the Board of Trustees. I also made sure to let the other trustees know that the trustee from Wellington North lied about me, and I included the emails that she referenced. Here they are. So this is the 23rd, and I'm in the way again, so I'll move. Here we go. This is Robin sending to all of the people in the in the original email chain that I sent. Hi, Mark, she says. I apologize to the group for not responding sooner. I'm just getting caught up on school board work today after several night shifts. To be clear, FSLAC is made up of people who volunteered to share ideas and ask questions about the specific area of French as a second language in our school board. Please respect the volunteer position of the other committee members and discontinue sending them emails for topics outside of our very narrow FSLAC mandate. You only have access to personal information as a member of FSLAC, and you do not have the right to use it for any other area of discussion. Please remove the FSLAC group from your personal emails. If you wish to raise awareness of other issues, you need to do so without violating the privacy of these individuals. No one should have to ask you to not use their personal emails. Trustees and staff have all listed work emails and you can contact any of us that way. And I respond, you can clearly see the chain. This was a question for the FSLAC group initially. If people would like to be removed from the original email list, I absolutely respect that and have complied with each request. There have been 2. However, I will include who I see fit with the replies to this. This is regarding a public meeting and deals directly with curriculum in the Upper Grand District School Board. I'm not attempting to use personal information for any reason other than to discuss board policy, which impacts curriculum, with the committee I sit on. This is directly about the board curriculum as it applies to the FSLAC committee. I'm sorry you don't agree. And here's my follow-up email to the trustees. Hello, trustees. Just a forward of the referenced email train. I want to point out that Ms. Ross said, quote, but he has clearly stated to me he will continue to use it as an opening to send his opinions to others on any topic he wishes, even after other members have asked him to stop including them. You can read for yourself below that this is a bold-faced lie. I believe very strongly that this concern falls within the mandate of the FSLAC committee and communicated that clearly to Ms. Ross. I then expressed regret that she did not agree and that it was within the scope of the committee. Instead of clarifying her position, she just never responded. She also stated, he is fun to have long philosophical discussions with, but in my experience, it is one-sided. I've never had a long philosophical discussion with Mr. Ross, not by email, not in person. In no way have we ever had any conversation remotely resembling what she describes here. We have interacted on the FSLAC committee and nothing else. She continues, he has no interest of using this discussion to examine his opinion that he comes to the meeting with. I'm mystified at how she knows my intentions, particularly when my email clearly asks, am I missing something vital here? She states, I usually spend an hour or 2 before I reply to his emails, making sure that my points are ordered based on data and that I know enough other facts to defend my point. I find it a lot of fun, but a lot of work. Usually he is far outside of the mandated FSLAC, but he is but he has clearly stated to me that he will continue to use it as an opening to send his opinions to others on any topic he wishes, even after other members have asked him to stop including them. I say again, we have never had a long discussion, certainly not one that would require such preparation. I'm sure I would remember that. Outside of FSLAC and FSLAC-related emails, I've never engaged with Miss Ross to my knowledge. If she spent time on something, it has very little to do with me. Miss Ross, please forward any email chain that you're referring to. She states, as soon as he finds out that addressing all of us gets a response from the chair, I'm sure he will contact everyone individually with a more complex argument than this one. His main premise is that the philosophy of our board equity plan is wrong. He hasn't yet shared what his cultural philosophy is. I'm interested in a response from the chair, but I have no intention of creating a more complex argument. I think my question is very straightforward, and I do not think I deserve to be slandered in this way. She finishes with this line, I agree with our use of the philosophy that the white victors wrote the rules and wrote history, and it is inherently biased because of that. I will continue to defend it privately to him. Is this common language with the trustees in this board? She implies that she has communicated her philosophy to me privately. We have never spoken about this, ever. I would have contacted people, namely other board trustees, if a trustee had referred to white people as white victors when referring to our educational position on anything, particularly diversity and equity. I will reiterate, I come to you asking humbly for help, each one of you to communicate clearly and to the correct people my concerns in a way that will be heard. I asked this earlier today and received lies and slander in return from the group I asked for help from the group who are elected to be the advocates for the community in public education. If you have a problem and reached out for help, would you condone the treatment that I've received? However, to have a trustee claim what was claimed by Ms. Ross to colleagues about a parent who is reaching out asking for help is beyond abhorrent. I took the time to watch the June 16th meeting in full after reaching out to the FSLAC committee for help in what direction things were going. Took the time to put together a well thought out questions that are about racism and intolerance, questions that I would very much still like the answers to. I attended the racism meeting on June 24th, and I didn't see any other times to hear about the board's equity plan. I did my homework, and for doing that, I was ignored and lied about by a trustee. The board's own equity guidelines state, and as an educational community, we have a responsibility to identify and describe racism and oppression and then work to dismantle it. I identified multiple people in the equity and inclusion team displaying very concerning worldview, and that critical race theory directly states that either something is anti-racist or it's upholding white supremacy and therefore racist. This seems to be targeting one race, which is against statute 1691 in the Education Act. In response to the trustees from Ms. Ross, she also states, I agree with their use of the philosophy that white victors wrote the rules and history, and it is inherently biased because of that. I will continue to defend it privately to him, which in my mind are as troubling as the June 16th meeting. Are we working to dismantle all racism? I digress. I'm not trying to make this about my original point. Sorry. In asking for help to communicate my concerns from the elected board trustees, I do not feel I deserve to be lied about and slandered in a reply-all email to the group. I do not feel it's appropriate conduct for a trustee. I do not think it's appropriate conduct for a chair to say about a member of her committee, even if it were true, which it most certainly is not. The anti-racism and anti-oppression work page says we will implement ongoing mandatory anti-racism and anti-oppression training for all staff and be fully transparent and accountable to all upper grade students, staff, families, and stakeholders in an ongoing manner. I would like some accountability for the actions of this trustee and FSLAC chair. I'm a first-generation Canadian and son of immigrants. My grandparents spoke a different language when they arrived in Toronto on a boat, and the runaround that I've experienced trying to even get people to give me the time of day is appalling. But the conduct of this trustee to undermine me privately to her colleagues while lying about interactions we've had is beyond the pale. Thank you for your serious attention to this. I've attached the relevant email chains for you to read through if you see fit. Thank you for your time. I'm not working to undermine anyone. I'm not working to further any cultural philosophy. I believe strongly that everyone deserves to be treated fairly and equally no matter what color their skin is. Thanks for your time. Here's one last thought. Here's a screenshot of the anti-Black racism resources. Do you see any bias at all? It is this clear bias that concerns me. Do you know what McDonald's in China did recently to Black Africans? And more reading. And that was the end of that email. At this point, I was told to send my concerns to the chair of the board and that she would follow up. And what I sent was going to need to be covered in another video, because I think this is the end of this video now. But this is fundamentally, I think, the conduct of the board the specific trustee who used the board resources to send an email to undermine a parent is not appropriate, especially when the parent is genuinely trying to understand the policy that is being driven by this board, by this equity team, and something that was presented to this board of trustees just on the 16th of June. This policy it hasn't been in place a long time. This is brand new, just been approved. And a whole bunch of it has undefined language. There's a lot to be desired here, and the professionalism that I've experienced when trying to reach out and solve this problem leaves a lot to be desired. I'm very, very disappointed. And so I felt compelled to put together this case study to show other parents what they're getting into if they try and address a situation with the board. If you agree with them, I suppose they treat you differently than if you don't agree with them. And I certainly don't agree with them about critical race theory and about the moves they're making and about the comments being made by staff publicly in public meetings to trustees and about comments made by trustees privately to other trustees. Robin Ross didn't mean to include me in the email that she sent about me, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? It happened. And well, the board knows it happened and they don't care either. So nothing's going to happen. And that's fundamentally why I'm putting this together, because nothing's going to happen. I've run the course of this. Nothing is going to happen. They're going to move ahead with this, undefined language and all. And well, be aware, because there's nothing that we can do. Nothing that I can do any further, right? Not that I'm aware of anyway. So I put up a contact me. If you're interested in contacting me, there's been people who have asked, how do we get in contact with you? You can get in contact with me at the top of the page on CanadaReport.co. And if you want to, hey, sure, let's chat. I'm interested because there's lots of concerning things. I mean, having the superintendent confirm that staff are to be told to ignore a parent when the parent still doesn't have good answers, right? That's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. And this goes against their code of conduct. So thanks for watching, everybody. Still more to come. Video 6 will show the resolution of the trustee situation and why I don't believe that anything will change, why I don't believe that there will be any kind of different outcome. So thanks for watching. I hope you tune into the next one and have a wonderful, wonderful day.